Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our Friday edition of our show. I'm your host, Joe Grotto. Thank you all for stopping by to kick off your weekend to hear our thoughts on athletics baseball. Today is Friday, July 10th. We've got a show for you today. We're going to recap what went down over the final two of the three-game set against the Detroit Tigers after dropping the first game 6-2 back on Tuesday night against Tarek Skubal and the Tigers. The Tigers would go on to complete the three-game sweep. We'll be sure to recap how it all went down, share our thoughts, and discuss this team's pathway moving forward for the 2026 season. Speaking of, we're going to take a look at where this team currently lies within the postseason picture, which despite their tough record, the tough stretch that they are still within striking distance of both the division and an American League wildcard spot. So it begs the question what this team should do. Should they buy? Should they sell? Or should they stay put? We'll be sure to give our thoughts and discuss both sides of the fence before we come to a conclusion of our personal take. And then before we get on out of here for the weekend, we are going to do our final series preview before the All-Star break as the A's have their road trip conclude with the first of three starting tonight in the south side of Chicago as they are set to take on the first place Chicago White Sox. Got a good show for you. Appreciate you all stopping by to hear our thoughts on everything athletics baseball before kicking off into the weekend. Without further ado, let's get to it. Holy Toledo, let's go A's. There, A's Day fans, thank you once again for stopping by on this Friday or whenever you're listening to this edition of our show. Appreciate you hearing what we have to say about the green and gold. With that, let's dive right in. We're going to start with our series recap. We're going to jump right into Game 2. Like we mentioned on our last show, we recapped the loss 6-2. Now we move ahead to see what went down the rest of the series against the Detroit Tigers. Game 2 featured Jeffrey Springs versus the Tigers right-hander Troy Melton. Jeffrey Springs really going through the struggle since May and trying to find a glimmer of positivity in this one. However, the Tigers had other ideas. After an infield single and 2 walks with 1 out, Riley Green would deliver an RBI single to give the Tigers a 1-0 lead right away in the first. In the second, the Tigers would get 2 more via a 2-run home run off the bat of Jake Rogers as it's now a 3-0 Tiger lead. On to the fourth we go. Not getting much going against Tiger starter Troy Melton. The A's would scratch one across to get on the board. Jacob Wilson reached on a throwing error by Zach McKinstry, which allowed Tyler Soderstrom to come around the score and make it a 3-1 game. In the fifth, Springs would get hurt by the long ball again. This time it would be Spencer Torkelson unleashing a 3-run home run to left as it's now a 6-1 Detroit lead. After allowing a walk to Riley Green, that would bring an end to Springs' day. Springs, unfortunately, another rough one in this one. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits allowed, 6 runs, 4 walks, 4 Ks, 2 homers issued. A's would get 5 more base runners on the rest of this game, but they couldn't add on anymore, and this is where the game would conclude after 9. Ball game over. Tigers win Game 2 6-1, securing the series and having an opportunity the following day to complete the 3-game home sweep. So it just seems to be a recurring theme that Jeffrey Springs just cannot get out of this struggle. And it seems like with his pitch location, he's missing too much in hitter-friendly zones and doesn't have that confidence to have that put-away pitch. It seems like he's either falling behind hitters and working his way back into the count, or he does get ahead and then he starts nibbling and then letting these hitters back into the count, where he does throw a strike that's catches a little bit too much of the plate because I have noticed that Springs does seem to be getting bit a lot with 2 outs and with 2 strikes. So to me, that's perhaps not living on the edges as much as you should, especially when the count is in your favor. And just really tough to really dictate what the issue is, because it doesn't seem like an injury thing. The velocity isn't down. And it doesn't really necessarily seem like a mechanical thing because, well, he is throwing a lot of strikes, although the walk rate went up a little bit in this one. But typically, him is just catching too much of the plate. So is it perhaps coming up with a different plan, working to the edges? You got to go back to the drawing board a little bit here, because this is supposed to be one of your veteran foundations in the rotation. And perhaps he's been the most inconsistent over this last, we're almost going on 2 months of poor pitching now. It got off to such a great start in April, him pitching to a sub-2 ERA. Ever since then, it seems like he's been punching upwards, trying to get back into that groove how he started this season. So it's there, and you just wonder what it is that got a little bit out of whack. And perhaps it is his overall tempo, where it just seems like at times his body is trying to catch up with his arm, so maybe that is leading to him missing up in the zone a little bit more frequently. And especially with Springs not necessarily being a high-velocity guy, but someone that has had a good amount of success when he's living on the edges, when he relies on the movement on his pitches, that if he's living in hitter-friendly counts too long, these professional hitters are just too good, especially with the higher velocities that they're seeing on a nightly basis, that almost you could say a blast of the past type pitcher in Springs, where it's a lot more of a velocity that is handable, that you would think that's why these hitters have been having success over this stretch of about, his last 5-6 starts. So hopefully that's something that, we'll see how long this keeps going, and if they are going to consider a potential role change for him to figure it out as a long reliever until he sorts things out. But with the injury bug really testing the A's pitching depth, don't see that happening anytime soon, unless they want to give young guys another opportunity just to see what they have. But hopefully next time out, and I feel like we've been kind of saying this on a lot of previous episodes lately, when Springs is involved this start, hopefully he gets back on the road to success. Because it's going to have to do with something where he's going to have to change things up a little bit in his preparation, because right now it's just not getting the job done. Joshua Kuroda-Grauer, at least he came to play, the rookie infielder. He goes 3 for 4 tonight. He's been off to a hot start since his call-up. We'll get to his numbers a little bit more on the show, but the rest of the offense did not come to play. Outside of his 3 for 4 night, the offense collectively goes 4 for 31 in this one, 2 doubles, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts, 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. It's just not going to get it done. And this offense is really, as a collective, has not been consistent across the board. And I know we've been having some interchangeable parts, especially over the last 2.5 weeks. And this still is a younger team, so understand there are going to be those growing pains. But when you see the talent of this lineup, and when they're in there almost as a whole, and just to see that the at-bats are into the quality standard that we've seen at the peak of this team's powers, it's just a little bit discouraging is all. Little beacon of light in this one. Jose Suarez, 2 strong innings out of the bullpen. A hit allowed, no runs, no walks, 4 Ks. Recently back from the paternity list. Congrats to Jose on being a new dad. Hopeful for nothing but health for the mother and the child. Good to see him back out there, and it seemed like he had a strong series in this one with that newfound dad strength. We'll talk about that a little bit as well later on. A's now have to figure out a way at this point to stop the bleeding. We talked about this last year when they were marred in that tough losing streak when they lost, I believe, at one point 20 of 21 or 21 of 22. No one stepped up and was the stopper in that streak, which played that team out of postseason contention last year. Now, hopefully history isn't repeating itself, and we're seeing the A's in by far their toughest stretch of the season thus far. Thankfully, the American League isn't as strong as it was last year. The division isn't as strong as it was last year. So they do have a little bit of leeway, but this season will get late early if you keep playing this way. So they, at this point, dropped the first 2 games. They don't have an opportunity to end their series losing streak. But the following day, they do have a new opportunity to win a ball game. A's looking to avoid the sweep in Detroit yesterday as Jose Suarez gets the nod as the opener in this one, with Jack Perkins piggybacking as the bulk arm in this one, going up against left-hander Framber Valdez. Suarez getting the opener start, like we mentioned, and he provides 1 1/3 scoreless innings. On would come Jack Perkins in the second as the bulk pitcher in this one. 1 out in the third. Raised the jolly Jake Rogers as he hammers a solo home run to give the Tigers a 1-0 lead. In the fifth, the A's would tie things up thanks to the hustle of Henry Bolte, busting down the line, avoiding the double play, and allowing Jacob Wilson to score with 2 outs. It's a 1-1 game. In the bottom half, the Tigers would have a response. Zach McKinstry would smash a 2-run home run as it's now a 3-1 Detroit lead after 5. After a Jake Rogers walk, that would bring a close to Perkins' day. Following Suarez's 1 1/3, Perkins went 3 innings, allowing 2 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 2 Ks. In the 7th, the Tigers would add on an insurance run off the bat of an Eduardo Valencia solo home run, his first career home run and his first Major League at-bat. Congrats to him. It's now 4-1 Tigers, and that is how the score would conclude in this one. Ball game over. Tigers win 4-1 and complete the 3-game sweep. So I thought in this one, Jose Suarez, he sets a good tone with those scoreless outings. And Perkins started out all right, but he couldn't avoid the long ball. He gives up 2 homers, 3 runs in his work. And while it's nothing that was insurmountable, it just allowed Detroit to dictate the narrative in this one once again. And it seemed like that's what Detroit did all throughout this series. They got a lead early, and they let their pitching go to work and preserve that lead. Getting some timely hitting later on, adding on via some power, some late inning offense, things like that. Tigers did it in a few different ways. They're heating up at the right time as the trade deadline is getting closer and closer. They have perhaps one of the biggest, if not the biggest, trade chip in Tarik Skubal if the Tigers decide to move on from him, because Skubal is on an expiring contract. If he is made available, I would imagine, if not all, the majority of teams around the league are going to inquire for Skubal's service. Back-to-back reigning Cy Young Award winner. It's not often someone of his caliber is available on the trade market, so he'll certainly be an interesting case. But Tigers complete the 3-game sweep. A's are going in the opposite direction. Their descent, it's glaring, it's intensifying rapidly as we near a much-needed all-star break for this team. Injuries have been rampant. We get another one in this one in Game 3, unfortunately. Yesterday, Zach Geloff makes a heck of a catch in left field. He's sliding towards the left field bleachers, down the left field line in foul territory, makes the catch. His knee smashes into the wall. He hobbles away at first. It seemed like he was going to stay in, but he was pulled afterwards for further evaluation. He's getting some imaging. Right now, he is day-to-day. We'll provide you updates on social media as we learn more. But tough break. He just recently got back from the injured list. Hopefully, another trip isn't imminent. But the offense, the theme continues in this one as a collective. They just did not hit in Detroit. Again, they get shut down 5 for 31 in this one, 0 for 5 runners in scoring position. It just was non-existent in this game and for the majority of the series. I mean, for an A's offense that is regarded as a top 10 unit, they didn't come to play in this one as a collective, and it's unfortunate. It wasn't everyone, but it was the majority. Sometimes you do tip your cap, and I do know the Tigers did have 3 of their stronger arms going in this one, in Skubal, Melton, and Valdez, no easy task for any opposing offense to have to go up against. But I wanted to see a little bit more fight. I wanted to see those at-bats grinded out a little bit more. I wanted to see some more of the grittiness collectively outside of Joshua Kuroda-Grauer. Their newest guy to the lineup had by far the most production in this series. He steps up to the plate. He's fearless, not afraid to strike out. He doesn't strike out a lot, but he's not afraid to make outs. He trusts his tool set. He knows he has above-average bat-to-ball skills. He knows he's there for a reason, and that he can compete against anyone. That's what he's showing so far. So hats off to him. And I think these guys that, they're still on the younger side or guys that have been there for a bit, can take note, because he did not back down from this challenge of these three really good arms the Tigers were sent forth against this A's lineup. But Kuroda Grauer is the only one that consistently delivered. And this is a team that their identity right now is built upon their offense. And if their offense does not go, this team is not going. Pretty simple. I mean, they get shut down in this series all throughout. I mean, I think they score a collective 4 runs over 3 games. I mean, it's not going to get it done flat out. That is not enough offensive production, especially when we have a pitching staff that doesn't have the depth that it needs to be sustainable over a long duration of time. So the offense needs to step up more. 4 runs over 3 games is not going to happen. In this series, A's dropped to 41-52 with the 3-game sweep. They're in the midst of a current 6-game losing streak. They've lost 5 series in a row. Now, this is, like I said, this is the toughest stretch of the season right now. And their other teams are going through their June, July swoons right now. But the A's can't let it slip a little bit too further. They've lost now 14 of the last 17. The All-Star break couldn't be coming at a better time for this team. They need to recoup. They need to get healthy, but they need a mental reset as well. It just seems like over these last 2.5 weeks, there have been so many interchangeable parts. Guys getting the calls up, guys heading to the injured list, guys coming back from the injured list, guys going back. It's just been a lot, I'm sure, for this team to withstand. And I understand it is a marathon of a season, and teams are going to go through this. But it does seem like it's all happening at once. So no excuses. You do have an organization of professionals. There's still plenty of talent in this lineup, even with the guys that aren't here, to be able to score more than 4 runs over 3 games. I'm not excusing them for that. I'm just saying over the long duration of time, of course, when your depth is tested, that you are, especially when you have a lot of these guys coming up, getting their first taste of big league action, or guys perhaps that don't have a ton of experience, it's going to take some time for them to get their legs under them at the major league level. But then to play as a collective unit with all these interchangeable parts, it's kind of hard to have that cohesion that we saw forming earlier on this season when the A's were avoiding the injury bug, which is why I feel like they were having more success early. So hopefully it all comes back into focus. It all evens itself out. And hopefully, it starts with a good weekend in Chicago, but then after a nice All-Star break, they can come out, reset. They start with a series at home. It's going to be really important for them to get off the mat and get firmly back into this race. Because despite the massive slump that we're talking about, by the way, this team they're somehow, at the time of recording, only 5.5 games back of first place in the American League West, despite being in 4th place. And they're only 5 games out of that final wild card spot. So with it only being July 10th, obviously there's plenty of time. A good week of baseball, you can find yourself back within a game or 2 or right in play. You never know how these things can go. So I think with where the A's are at right now, they can either still stand firm or be minimal buyers. But they got to tread lightly, because if they keep sinking, if they keep getting to a point that even in a winnable American League, or at least an American League where you can get into the postseason dance, where it does seem like there's a lot of parity, a lot of teams at or below 500. If you sink too low, you're not going to give the baseball operations staff much to go on to convince them why they should go out there and buy. Perhaps they won't sell, but perhaps they'll just stay firm and see if what they have is good enough to get there, and if not, switch your focus to 2027. But if you're the A's, you got to go out there. You got to convince them that, yes, you're 2 pieces away or so from getting into the postseason dance. If you keep playing like this, forget it. That's not going to happen. But it really does make the A's an interesting case leading up to the August 3rd trade deadline. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, we're going to hand out our 3 star performers from this past series really quick. We almost didn't do it, but there were 2 guys that we really felt were deserving. And then this third guy, he really produced in the first game. So we figure we'll touch upon it and then move along. So after this 3-game sweep, we're going to hand out our 3 stars. Third star, Henry Bolte. He did only go 1 for 10 in the series, but he had a big game 1. He had a home run. He had 2 RBIs in the series, 2 runs scored. That home run coming off of Skubal. That just goes to tell you the offensive struggles in this one. You had a Jonah Heim that went 2 for 7. I think Jacob Wilson went 2 for 10. But there was no runs scored, no offensive production there. So we went with Bolte, who had the 2 RBIs in the series. He hit the home run. So we figured that's why he ended up as our third star. Our second star, we're giving it to left-handed pitcher Jose Suarez. He pitched 2 games in this series. He went 3 1/3 innings, allowed 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 6 Ks. Nice way for him, fresh off the paternity list. Again, congrats to the Suarezes once again. And then for our first star, we're giving it to the rookie infielder, mainly has been playing at second base, Joshua Kuroda-Grauer. He's off to a great start in his early career. He goes 6 for 12 in the series, a double, and he's hitting .441 over his first 9 games, which is 15 for 34. Not a bad way to hit the ground running. He was hitting .352 at AAA. He's kept that hot hitting going at an even higher clip in the major leagues. So exciting times for him. Can't wait to see him keep it going. And that is our 3-star A's performer segment. Let's move on from that tough series. Done with it, over, and discuss what to make of the plans of this team moving forward in 2026. So, a few weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago, it seemed like, to me, a slam dunk the A's, while I don't believe would be rampant in terms of being active on the trade market, I did envision them making a couple moves potentially to improve the pitching staff and help out the bullpen as well. Well, after a 3-14 stretch, it's tough to say that they are still within 5.5 games of the division and 5 games of the wild card. But that's probably right at that margin not to plummet too far below for them to convince the baseball operations staffs to make some moves. If the A's can maintain staying within 3 to 5 games of a spot, I think they are going to move forward and make a couple moves. But that is the big question here. A couple weeks ago, I would have said no problem to that. In fact, I would have said that they might be even closer. But right now, with the combination of injuries, lack of experience, and this team trying to find its cohesion with all these interchangeable parts, I'm not sure what to think of this team at the moment. Do they have the talent and potential to get back into things more firmly? Absolutely. But it just seems like something's missing, something's not clicking. Are they perhaps missing the veteran leadership of Brent Rooker, who is out for the rest of this season, who's recovering from knee surgery? Is it the in and out of the lineup of Jacob Wilson, who does seem to be the straw that stirs this team's drink, that has led to a little bit of the erraticness of this team's performance? It's a good question. I don't know. There's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts there. Obviously, you have your 2 all-stars, Nick Kurtz and Shea Langoliers. Despite them having tough series in Detroit, as a collective, have been having fantastic seasons. Tyler Soderstrom being in and out of the lineup, has that hurt a little bit? Lawrence Butler still not living up to what led to him getting that extension. He's still trying to find his consistency. It's been better over this last month or so, but still looking for a little bit more consistency there. There have been a lot of things where the projections had this team pointed one way that I do think, as a collective, the offense has underperformed over the grand scheme of the expectation. Now, the pitching hasn't performed, but we kind of expected that, right? Like, we know with them pitching in the second most hitter-friendly environment at Sutter Health Park, we understand it's an uphill battle. We thought there would be an improvement, but we know until this team has a different home ballpark, perhaps that plays a little bit more to the medium, the numbers are going to be inflated. So you're going to have to play with that, but your offense has to come to play. Your offense has to play to the benefits of a hitter-friendly ballpark, and this year they just haven't done it at the level that they had last year. And with over their last 17 games or so, they've hit the least home runs in baseball. That's unacceptable. Now, I'm not saying they should be living or dying by the long ball, but their offensive production needs to be better than that. And I think combining that with tough pitching stretch performance after tough pitching performance, Gage Jump coming back down to the median a little bit, Aaron Savali being a little bit up and down, Jeffrey Springs not being able to figure it out. There's just been a lot that's been going wrong as of late. And again, that could be just simply that's baseball, and over the next 3 weeks after the All-Star break, perhaps we're seeing this team play the complete opposite on the other side of the coin. But until I see that, it's going to be tough to really see this team adding much by August 3rd. And right now, obviously we know their primary trade deadline needs is starting pitching is bullpen depth. Sitting at 41 and 52, if it stays around this, I don't see them adding more than maybe a bullpen beast, maybe a starter. But certainly they're not going to mortgage the future for a team 11 games under 500. That's just not going to happen. I don't care if the majority of the American League is under 500. You don't mortgage your future for a team that isn't in winning or championship position. It's just not the way you do baseball business. But we're going to look at it on the positive side of things. Let's say over the next couple weeks or so, the A's get within 2-3 games of the AL West. Perhaps they go out there and make a play for a starter. If they do that, here's a couple guys that we do think that are going to be good fits in that situation. And one, I think both these guys have been linked, but this guy that we're first going to talk about has been directly linked to a trade with the A's because Kansas City is off to a tough start. Michael Wacha, right-handed pitcher. He's a prime starting rotation trade target, frequently linked to the A's to help stabilize the pitching staff. Wacha has been a steady presence in the Royals rotation, posting a 3.64 ERA and an American League high 94 innings this season. Kansas City is having a disappointing season and could look to move the soon-to-be 35-year-old who is earning $18 million this season is set to make $14 million next year with a $14 million club option for 2028. So I think he's a potential option. I think very cost-effective, especially with where the A's payroll is, and having another year of control with him to be able to add to the depth of your starting rotation, having that veteran presence wouldn't be a bad thing, especially with how things are up in the air for 2027 due to the ongoing CBA negotiations. It might not be bad to have a veteran like that locked up just in case for next year. And then you can decide what you want to do from there in terms of for 2028. Another intriguing candidate, someone that has been in the organization, in fact, got his start in Major League Baseball with the A's. Never a bad option to bring back a familiar face. At the time of his departure, was at the peak of his powers. And at this juncture with Boston, still up in the air if they're out of it, if they're in it. They may be open to trading right-handed pitcher Sonny Gray, who's in the midst of an all-star season. He's been one of the few bright spots for the underachieving Red Sox, going 8-1 with a 3.03 ERA in his first 12 starts of the season. The 36-year-old right-hander has a full no-trade clause, but the opportunity to move to a contender could prompt Gray to approve a deal. Gray's in the final year of his 3-year, $75 million deal, and while he has a $30 million club option for 2027, he can opt out and become a free agent if the option is exercised. So I do think that's another guy that provides some flexibility. You're not taking on too much. You're taking on Sonny Gray for 2 months. And then, yes, you may have the opportunity to re-sign him in the offseason, but you don't have to be linked to that $30 million club option. You can let him walk, especially at that point. He would be entering, what would it be, age 37 season. So $30 million might be a lot, so I don't imagine that the A's would opt into that club option. And if Sonny Gray were to waive his no-trade clause, perhaps going to a place of familiarity would be a little bit more comforting on his docket. But also knowing where the A's are financially, perhaps it would know that no matter what, he is going to hit the open market in free agency. So why not go to the place where it all started, help that team get a spot in the postseason, and boost your overall value heading into this offseason. So time will tell there. I think those are two guys that can help bolster the rotation. And then the other area, I think the A's are going to be out there looking for impending relievers. It's really tough to determine at this point who's going to be available and who's not, just because of the mishmash of the American League. Obviously, someone like an Aroldis Chapman might be available from the Red Sox, but don't imagine that the A's would have the trade package for someone like that. And so there's going to be trade rumors, and we'll have some more options on that as we get a little bit closer. I'd say over the next week and a half to 2 weeks, or probably the next week and a half, it'll come to fruition who's going to be buying, who's going to be selling, and who's going to be staying firm. So we'll see how it all turns out. To me, where this offense or where this team is, add relievers and a starter, as long as the package isn't sizable or mortgaging the future in any way. The current state of this team, after seeing the stretch of baseball that they've just played, this isn't the year that's going to happen, right? And I think we all knew that going in. Were there heightened expectations that they could contend for the American League West, or perhaps an American League wildcard spot? Probably more realistically, yes. But do we believe that this team was a finished product heading in? No, we knew there was a lot of questions still with the bullpen. After the departure of Mason Miller last year, they needed to find their current and future closer, if possible. That there were things to like about the starting rotation, but in terms of depth quality, there was a lot of question marks. Will Luis Severino going to have a bounce back? He's been on the injury list now for some time. Was Jeffrey Springs going to continue to be a model of somewhat consistency? He has regressed. Aaron Savali has been mainly good, but since his return from the injured list, hasn't been as sharp as how he started the season. JT Ginn has been your most reliable starter, but now he had to leave his last start a little bit early. We're keeping an eye on if that's anything long-term to be concerned about. And Gage Jump has been everything as advertised. Now, his last couple times out, maybe coming a little bit more down to earth, but nevertheless, he, to me, has already showed that he deserves a spot in this rotation now and the foreseeable future. So we knew that this rotation was going to have question marks. Obviously, it hasn't worked out thus far this year. Jacob Lopez has greatly regressed. Luis Morales, it seems like his confidence has evaded him. Hopefully he finds it at AAA. But a lot has gone wrong with this starting rotation. And then the bullpen, I was saying it leading into the season, without them really finding their identity, it was going to be punching an upward battle. And you could see that at times it's looked good, but a lot of times, more times than not as a collective, the bullpen has simply not got it done. And Elvis Alvarado, after his return from AAA, was off to an electrifying start in that closer role, but since it's been a little bit more up and down, so perhaps a little bit more experience. He's definitely improved from where he was, but definitely still needs some development there. All that to say, this team is not a finished product. This is not a team that I would go all in for in terms of adding a significant amount of trade pieces. Now, I still think this offense has enough talent to get to the postseason. I do think that if this A's pitching staff can get a little bit healthier, can be closer to league average to give this team a chance to win some more ball games. But as currently constructed, this isn't a team that I go into the trade deadline and be worthy to give up any prospects to bring in some big pieces. This team's not there yet. I say add a reliever, add a starter at the right price, but if not, stay pat and go with what you got. Get healthy, gain some confidence, start playing as a collective, and start winning some of these home series because you're going to miss out on a lot of these opportunities. Now, if they come out of the All-Star break, well, let's say things get off, they win 2 out of 3 in Chicago this week and go in the All-Star break, and they come out of the break, a very important stretch here. 3 at home with the Nationals, 3 at Arizona, 3 at Minnesota, 4 versus Boston. That's no easy stretch. Now, coming into the season, you would have thought this is the part of the schedule where the A's are going to really get things going. But at this point, not a given. The Nationals are much better than expected. Going on the road to Arizona is never an easy feat. The Twins, they've been a little bit up and down. And Boston, while they've had a disappointing season, they've been playing better as of late since that 4-game sweep in the Bronx. So certainly they're feeling better about themselves. But right there, that's a 13-game stretch. You have to come out with a winning record. And those are their 13 games following the All-Star break. So I think over those 2 weeks of baseball, if we come away with that and they have a losing record, don't expect anything at the trade deadline. I wouldn't. Now, over that 13-game stretch, they go 8-5, 7-6. Perhaps that'll provide a little bit more faith because I really don't think anyone's going to run away with that American League West. I just think it's been the up and down nature of this season. But nevertheless, the A's have to start getting some wins again to provide some good faith with the baseball operations staff. Certainly rooting for things to change in Chicago and get some momentum going, or at least have some good feelings going into the break. But it will be no easy task against the first place, or tied for first place, the American League Central White Sox. But that's our thoughts on the trade deadline. I would say at the right price, add some bullpen help. If you can get a starter, great. But don't mortgage your future, because this team, as currently constructed or the current state of performance, they're not ready for that all-in button just yet. Now, over these next 2 weeks, if they catch fire, they go 10-4, 11-3, something crazy like that, then perhaps we'll have a future episode where my tune will change just a little bit. But that's our trade deadline stands for the green and gold. Before we get to our Chicago White Sox preview, this episode is brought to you by W Energy. Use promo code BALLERS2026 via our link in our Instagram profile to receive 10% off your next purchase with W, to receive clean ingredients to fuel your next workout or to fuel a productive workday. Fuel with W Energy today. All right, let's get to the latter half of our show before the much-needed All-Star break for the A's arrives. We have one more series preview, and tonight begins the first of 3 on the road against the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox come into tonight's action 47-45, tied for first place in the American League Central with the Cleveland Guardians. They are led by manager Will Venable. In their latest series, they were swept in a 3-game sweep by the Red Sox, 8-1, 5-0, and 2-1. Offensively, the White Sox rank across Major League Baseball as follows. As a team, they're hitting .239, which is 19th in baseball. They've hit 125 home runs, which is 4th. They've scored 429 runs, which is 11th. They've walked 311 times, which is 16th. And they've struck out 815 times, which is the 8th most. To go along with their 729 OPS is 11th in baseball. On the mound, they've pitched to a .425 ERA, which is 15th. They've walked 353 batters, which is the 5th most. They've struck out 771 batters, which is tied for 16th, and have pitched to a .134 whip, which is 20th. And defensively, they've been just about league average. They're fielding it at a .986 fielding percentage, which is 15th, and they've committed 45 errors, which is tied for 14th. Now, we're going to share the White Sox projected starting lineup, most likely in 2 of these games due to the A's starting 2 lefties that we know of. Leading off at third base, Miguel Vargas, the first-time All-Star. Batting second, the designated hitter, it'll be Randall Grichuk against lefties, and then Andrew Benintendi against any right-handed pitching. Batting third, the shortstop, Colson Montgomery. Batting fourth, the first baseman returning from the injured list in his first action tonight, Muntaka Murakami. Batting fifth, the second baseman, Chase Medroth. Batting sixth, the left fielder, Sam Antonacci. Batting seventh, the right fielder, Junior Perez. Batting eighth, the catcher, Kyle Teal. And batting ninth, the center fielder, Tristan Peters. Now let's take a look at the game time schedule for first pitch and the starting pitching matchups between the A's and the White Sox. So game 1 tonight is 6:40 p.m. Central Time, 4:40 p.m. Pacific. The A's have not announced their starter yet. He'll be going up against White Sox right-hander Sean Burke. And then tomorrow, Saturday, will be a day game as is Sunday, 1:10 p.m. Central Time, 11:10 a.m. Pacific. Gage Jump will be getting the ball for the A's going up against Eric Fetty. And then Sunday's rubber match is also a 1:10 p.m. Central Time start, 11:10 a.m. Pacific. Jeffrey Springs getting the ball for the A's going up against White Sox left-hander Noah Schultz. Let's learn a little bit about these White Sox starting pitchers that the A's will be going up against. So first, tonight's White Sox starter is right-handed pitcher Sean Burke. On the year thus far, he's pitched in 18 games, 14 of those being starts, pitching to a 5-4 record with a 3.56 ERA. In 98 2/3 innings, he's walked 33 batters, 106 strikeouts, and pitched to a 1.22 whip. In his last start, he got the win at Cleveland. He went 6 innings, allowed 7 hits, 1 run, no walks, 11 strikeouts. On the year, his fastball has averaged 94.7 miles an hour. Burke has officially transitioned from a high upside developmental arm into a legitimate mid-rotation anchor for the White Sox. Coming off a career-high 11 strikeout performance against Cleveland, the 26-year-old right-hander has solidified his mound formula. He has combined improved command with elite physical traits to dominate hitters ahead of the 2026 All-Star break. Entering this month, Burke has moved past his previous hybrid roles to become a highly efficient full-time starter. His 106 strikeouts rank in the top 25 across baseball. His ERA ranks in the top 30 along with his whip. His pitch repertoire is as follows. He works with a four-seam fastball, sitting comfortably at 94 to 95 and frequently touches 98 to 99. The pitch features elite vertical movement, 9.8 inches of vertical carry, that profiles similarly to elite arms like Blake Snell. His knuckle curveball sits at 78 to 80 with a sharp 12 to 6 depth. It serves as his primary change of pace tool to manipulate hitter eye levels. It currently generates an impressive 18.6% whiff rate. His slider, thrown with tight spin and two-plane power at 85 to 87, he effectively uses it as a chase pitch, drawing out of his own swings at over 32%. His mound extension, standing at 6'6", Burke utilizes his massive frame to generate over 7 feet of extension towards home plate. This releases the ball closer to the batter, creating an incredibly high effective velocity that forces reactive, uncomfortable swings. His strengths focus on a premium swing and miss stuff, excellent pitchability, strong vertical carry in his fastball, and showing high leverage composure working deeper into games, the sixth inning or later over his reach and stretch. Some things he can work to improve on is his historical control issues stemming from his long 6'6" levers. His walk rate can still spike when his release point wavers. However, the adjustments for this season thus far have dramatically curbed this flaw. As for Game 2 starter, the A's will be going up against right-handed pitcher Eric Fetty. On the year, he's pitched in 18 games, 9 of those being starts, a 4-6 record with a 4.34 ERA, 85 innings pitched, 34 walks, 57 strikeouts, and a 1.45 WHIP. In his last start, he won in Cleveland as well, going 5 1/3 innings, allowing 8 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks. His fastball velocity averages 94 miles an hour. Eric Fetty, he profiles as a low strikeout back of the rotation starter or long relief hybrid for the White Sox. Now 33, the veteran right-hander relies heavily on pitch movement and contact management rather than high-end velocity or swing and miss stuff. On the year thus far, he is heavily dependent on team context and bullpen support. His FIP is a full run higher than the ERA, signaling impending trouble. The strikeout rate is well below league average at 15.2%. The walk rate is creeping up at 9.1%. Hitters are making more frequent contact, limiting his ability to escape jams as cleanly as years past. The 88.7 miles an hour average exit velocity is acceptable hard hit management, but susceptible to high damage mistakes. So something to keep an eye on in his start against this A's lineup. His pitch arsenal is as follows. He works with a sweeper, dramatically altering his approach, throwing his sweeper a career high 37.8% of the time. His sinker, averaging 92 to 93 miles an hour, is his primary fastball variation. He struggles to blow it past major league hitters, using it almost exclusively to jam right-handed hit batters and generate ground balls. His cutter acts as his bridge pitch to keep left-handed hitters off of his sinker. Its shape remains virtually identical to previous years, offering decent directional contrast but minimal deception, and his circle changeup used sparingly as a minor off-speed option. Hitters generally track it well due to a slight increase in velocity that minimizes his off-speed differential. And as for Game 3 starter, the A's will be going up against a lefty, Noah Schultz. On the year, he's made 10 starts, a 2-6 record with a 6 ERA, 48 innings pitched, 29 walks, 43 Ks, and a 1.42 WHIP. In his last start against the Red Sox, he took the loss. He went 5 innings, allowed 7 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 3 Ks. His fastball averages 95.3 miles an hour thus far on the year. Schultz is currently navigating a highly anticipated but turbulent rookie season, pitching through mechanical adjustments and control issues after a recent return from the injured list. After a dominant start to 2026 in AAA, Schultz made his major league debut on April 14th earlier this year. However, a late May stint on the injured list for right knee patellar tendonitis disrupted his rhythm. Since being activated in late June, his command has greatly faltered. Standing at a towering 6'10" and weighing 240 pounds, Schultz presents a highly intimidating presence on the mound. He utilizes a modified windup starting from a stretch-like stance with a small side rocker step to keep his immense levers in sync. He throws from an extremely low 3/4 arm slot. This unique angle creates massive horizontal deception, effectively hiding the ball from hitters until release and allowing his pitches to play up. He works with a fastball. His 2-seamer and 4-seamer sit comfortably at 95 to 97, occasionally touching 99. It explodes on hitters with heavy late run and sink. International League hitters were completely stymied by it early in the year, though MLB hitters have punished it when he misses over the plate. His slider-sweeper combo, this remains his signature double-plus wipeout pitch, averaging 80 to 83 miles an hour with elite spin rates, often exceeding 2,800 to 3,000 RPM. It features up to 16 inches of sweeping glove side movement. It is highly effective against both righties and lefties. His cutter and upper 80s offering, introduced more heavily in 2026 to bridge the gap between his fastballs and slow breaking stuff. It has flashed solid command, occasionally operating as his primary secondary pitch when his off-speed feel is off. His changeup and curveball mixes in an 81 to 83 mile an hour changeup with late downward action, primarily to keep right-handed hitters from sitting on the slider. He also features a big bending low 80s curveball. Some current developmental outlooks. The command dilemma continues. Historically noted for surprising body control and strike throwing ability, his command has degraded in the majors. He has issued 3+ walks in 7 of his 10 MLB starts. He is suffering from some post-IL rust. In his 2 July starts against the Orioles and Red Sox following his knee injury, he has allowed 7 earned runs over 9 1/3 innings, plagued by an inability to consistently land his sweeper or changeup for strikes. Schultz is actively adjusting to big league lineups, noting in July evaluations that he's still discovering his definitive major league identity and optimal pitch mix. Now, here is how the A's hitters have fared against White Sox starting pitchers in occurrences in the past. So against Sean Burke, these are just players of note. Jacob Wilson lifetime is 3 for 5 with a home run. Tyler Soderstrom 2 for 6 with a home run, and Shea Langoliers 1 for 4 with a home run. Against Eric Fetty, Jeff McNeil lifetime is 7 for 20 with a double, and Jacob Wilson is 2 for 2 with a home run. And then against Noah Schultz, they faced off just once earlier this year. The combined collection of guys who do have a history that are currently active against Schultz went 0 for 9 with a walk, so not much history there. Some White Sox players to watch in this series are first-time All-Star Miguel Vargas. He's off to a good start. He's hitting .239 with 20 homers, 56 RBIs, and an .832 OPS. Then, of course, you have shortstop Colson Montgomery. He's hitting .222, but he has 23 home runs, 53 RBIs, and a .785 OPS. And, of course, the star rookie, he is returning from the injured list tonight in his first action in quite some time. Muntaka Murakami, he's hitting .240 on the year with 20 home runs, 41 RBIs. That was in 57 games played, a .938 OPS. Now, before we get on out of here, it's prediction time. We're going to make our A's Day home run prediction and then our series prediction. So, we're going to play by the numbers. We're going to rely on the fact that we do believe at times history does repeat itself. So, with that, for our A's Day home run prediction, we are going to say that shortstop Jacob Wilson will hit at least 1 home run over this 3-game set heading into the All-Star break. And as for our A's Day series prediction, we predicted last time that the Tigers would take 2 out of 3, and that is what happened. So hopefully, we're going to will this one into existence. While I do feel both these teams are coming in, the White Sox coming off with 3 games, being swept in 3 games, A's are marred, losing 6 in a row. Something's got to give. We just think that something's got to begin to turn right for the A's. So with the pitching that is lined up, we do want to believe that Game 3 is really going to decide this one. And we're going to say that the A's are going to take 2 out of 3 to head into the All-Star break with some good feeling. We're going to say that the White Sox take Game 1 tonight, 7-2. But then we feel the A's are going to bounce back over the weekend. They're going to get a good start from Game's jump yesterday and get to Fetty a little bit. We do feel that they'll win tomorrow 5-1. And I think they're going to have a good performance offensively on Sunday against Noah Schultz, who is still trying to find his footing from his return from the injured list. We think that Jeffrey Springs is going to have a little bit, enough of a bounce back that the A's are going to win Sunday's game 7-4, completing the series victory, ending their series losing streak as well. So I hope you're all able to enjoy the A's action in Chicago starting later this evening and all throughout the weekend. And hopefully the next time we meet, we're recapping for the first time what seems in quite some time a series victory. With that brings us to the close of another edition of A's Day. Appreciate you all stopping by. We are going to be back behind the mic for Tuesday's show, as it's going to be at the start of the All-Star break. We're going to recap what goes down in this White Sox series, and then we're going to see other A's news that comes across our desk, and then we're going to do a little bit of an All-Star game preview for Shea Langoliers and Nick Kurtz to tell what you can expect, and who knows, maybe we'll make a couple of predictions, and other occurrences that make the news airways, we'll be sure to talk about it here on A's Day. That's all I have for you today. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grado. Thank you all for stopping by. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you right here in the same spot for Tuesday's show. Take care, everyone, and until next time, Holy Toledo, let's go A's.